Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this panel discussion with the very daunting title of Limiting the Risk of Failure in Financial Institutions. Here in Italy, the cities of Florence and Venice have made quite a bit of money by preserving the architecture from a time when they were thriving financial centers. Today, in China, there's also a remarkable effort underway to preserve the architecture of what was then the nation's banking capital up until the 19th century, Pingyao. In 1823, a bank there became the first in China to issue checks. The town lay in the path of a valuable trade route, and a bank manager spotted a business opportunity as he saw silver shipments passing each other in opposite directions. He created a revolution, replacing the cost of security, wagons, and pack animals with a clearinghouse. And his bank spawned 50 competitors across the Shanxi province. But that bank had a risk problem back then as well. And at a time when bankers weren't held in particularly high esteem, the solution found was pretty simple. To keep employees honest, they were required to pledge their homes and surrender their families as slaves if they committed fraud. Thankfully for the wives and children, and the bankers as well, it wasn't fraud that killed Pingyao's financial industry. In 1911, the government withdrew its remittance business, and currency unification ended the silver trade between the cities. And this brings us to the theme of our World Congress, Learning from the Past and Building the Future. Ladies and gentlemen, perhaps with bankers still under the spotlight, but a century after the Qing dynasty's collapse, we are still discussing more effective ways to regulate financial markets. In fact, just a few weeks ago, New York Fed President William Dudley was quoted as saying, "The financial industry has largely lost the public trust." So it's not just a hot topic, it's an enduring one and a complex one. Because in the midst of the renewed regulatory pressures post-crisis, there are also strong political pressures on financial institutions to increase lending to business, to individuals, and to support economic growth. So risk and reward, the nature of banking, technology, global trade are all immeasurably impacted the banking industry and modern industry more generally, and present new and challenging questions for us. And so limiting the risk of the next financial institution collapse is a task that must remain front and center in the minds of the banking industry, our profession, and the regulatory community. So to discuss that effort, we've assembled a very experienced panel, and I'm delighted to briefly introduce each of them to you now. First, we have Patricia Sucher. Patricia manages the accounting and audit policy team at the UK Prudential Regulation Authority and is also the chair of Basel Committee's audit subgroup. Next to Pat, we have Henry Dobney, who's a senior UK banking partner with PricewaterhouseCoopers, who's dealt with a wide range of financial services clients in the UK, Europe, Africa, and the United States. Paul Cavallars, who was first head of monetary policy department at the Dutch Central Bank from 2003 to 2008, and is now head of the supervisory strategy department for the Dutch Central Bank. And finally, Tsuyoshi Oyama. He's the head of Center for Risk Management and Strategy for Deloitte, based in Japan, and he leads the risk management advisory practice for major banks. So please welcome them with a nice round of applause. I should have introduced myself first, but I'll introduce myself now before turning over to Pat. I'm Russel Guthrie. I'm the CFO and the Executive Director of Professional Relations for the International Federation of Accountants, and I'm very delighted to be here. So our format of our session today will be to ask each of our panelists to provide you with some perspectives on this topic from their background and experience for approximately 10 minutes each. And then we're going to open it up to questions and answers, hopefully from you. We're fortunately in a very intimate venue, so you should just feel free to raise your hand. We have some roving mics that we can bring to you in the audience, and you can address your questions to the panel. And so with that, Pat, I'm happy to let you lead off.